Welcome, dear listeners, to another shrouded episode of our scary stories. I'm your host, your navigator through the twilight realms of terror. As the veil of day falls and the moon holds court, we venture into the clandestine corners of fear that reside within the human psyche. So, sit back, dim your lights, and lend me your ears. We're about to embark on a journey where the sunlight wanes and shadows reign. Get ready to face the eclipse over Eden. In the heartland of America, nestled among green valleys and placid rivers, lay Eden, a town so picturesque it seemed plucked from a Rockwell painting. Cobblestone streets hugged quaint houses with pastel-colored shutters. The white church steeple punctuated the sky, and sprawling fields framed the town, resplendent in nature's palette. On this fateful day, the community's vibrant chatter echoed around the town square, a soundtrack to an event anticipated with shared joy and curiosity. A solar eclipse. Ethan, Eden's unofficial astronomer and high school science teacher, had set up his telescope in the park, the center of the day's festivities. His charismatic charm was as gravitational as the celestial bodies he admired. As the silver-haired father explained the eclipse's science to the enchanted crowd, his gaze occasionally slipped towards Noah, his 15-year-old son. Noah's normally bright eyes, mirrors of the open sky Ethan loved, were clouded with teenage skepticism, their shared love for stargazing temporarily eclipsed by adolescent rebellion. As the appointed time approached, a hush fell over Eden. Eyes swiveled upwards, protected by special glasses distributed by Ethan. The moon began its delicate dance across the sun, a silhouette nibbling at the radiant sphere. But when the moon fully cloaked the sun, casting a twilight blanket over the midday bustle, an unexpected chill descended, a stark departure from the predicted natural phenomena. Time, it seemed, held its breath. Eden, veiled in an uncanny darkness, waited for the sun's reappearance, for the return of light, of warmth, of normalcy. It never came. The unsettling darkness turned the idyllic Eden surreal, turning familiar into unfamiliar, cozy homes into brooding silhouettes, and cheerful chatter into whispers of concern. Ethan looked up at the eclipsed sun, an ominous black disk ringed with an unearthly glow. His heart pounded, a drum echoing the disquiet around him. Beside him, Noah's prior indifference had slipped away, replaced with a mirroring anxiety. He clutched his father's arm, a silent plea for reassurance. Fear, like an unseen specter, threaded through the crowd as the darkness stretched on, swallowing hours that should have been bathed in sunlight. The world felt off-kilter, a painting grotesquely distorted. Ethan, surrounded by the townsfolk's anxious faces, felt a cold realization creep upon him. The words escaped his lips before he could stop them, a prophecy of doom whispered into the unforgiving darkness. This isn't just an eclipse. It's something more, sinister. As the dreadful words hovered in the air, Eden seemed to hold its breath, the unnatural night tightening its grip around the once idyllic town. The seeds of a horrifying truth, like the growing shadows, started to take root, burrowing deep into the heart of Eden and its denizens. This was the dawn of their darkest hour. As the sun vanished, so did the comforting blanket of normalcy, leaving behind an echo of terror that reverberated through the winding lanes, the cozy homes, and the fearful hearts of Eden. For under this malevolent darkness, a nightmare was beginning to stir, threatening to consume them all. The persistent gloom of the undying eclipse cast Eden in an eerie tableau of endless night. Time seemed to lose meaning, merging day into night and night into a darker abyss. The town, once a vibrant pastiche of community life, now lay shrouded in a disquieting hush, each corner whispering tales of unease. In his cluttered study, Ethan pored over aged town records and arcane texts, seeking solace in their dusty wisdom. The flickering candlelight threw long, dancing shadows over his furrowed brow, reflecting his growing desperation. His mind was a tempest, churning with ancient prophecies and cosmic anomalies, a lighthouse amid the storm of the unknown. Meanwhile, Noah, trapped in the midnight hue of his bedroom, wrestled with a different demon, the ghostly whispers that slipped through the cracks of his sanity. A soft rustling, akin to leaves in a phantom wind, twisted into hushed voices. The words were indecipherable, a cryptic symphony of dread that amplified the chilling isolation of the eclipse's eternal twilight. Outside, Eden's streets were a labyrinth of shadows and half-glimpsed shapes. Each rustle of wind through barren tree branches, each distant dog's whimper, and even the very silence itself, seemed tainted with an insidious chill. The townsfolk shared rushed whispers of strange happenings, of fleeting figures at the edge of vision, and laughter that hung in the air, disembodied and cold. One late, endless night, the whispers found Noah in his fortress of blankets. The murmurs, like icy tendrils, curled around his consciousness. His pulse quickened, a frantic rhythm in the deathly quiet. Noah turned on the bedside lamp, banishing the deeper shadows, but the whispers lingered. They seemed to be beckoning, luring him towards something he dared not comprehend. Ethan found his son pale and shaken the next morning. As Noah relayed his spectral encounter, Ethan's blood turned to ice. The whispers, the shadows, the ceaseless eclipse, it was all starting to align with the grimmer narratives hidden in Eden's lore. His eyes met Noah's, a silent pact forming between them. This was no ordinary eclipse. They were in the throes of an ancient cosmic horror. Across town, Mrs. Hughes, the local baker, and arguably the toughest soul in Eden, hesitated outside her bakery. The door had become an ominous portal, beyond which her quaint shop loomed like an unexplored cavern. The shadows within seemed darker, the silence too heavy. She steeled herself and entered, the familiar scent of bread offering meager comfort. As she lit the candles, she thought she heard a soft giggle, a childlike glee that curdled her blood. The madness was spreading through Eden, a malevolent contagion born on the wings of the eternal night. As the whispers grew bolder, so did the town's dread. Each home, each street, each heart was now haunted by an unseen horror. Under the cloak of the ceaseless eclipse, Eden found itself standing on the precipice of terror, staring into the abyss of an unknown that was waking from a centuries-long slumber. The once peaceful streets of Eden were now a twisted reflection of their former selves, eerily deserted and eternally shrouded in the sinister twilight. The townsfolk huddled in their homes, the comforting familiarity of their walls a feeble defense against the dread creeping in from the outside world. A town meeting was convened in the dimly lit community hall, the candlelight casting an unearthly glow on the sea of worried faces. Ethan stood before the townsfolk, his stature holding an air of grim resolve. Noah stood by his side, clutching an old leather-bound book, his fingers white against the darkened leather. The room buzzed with hushed conversations, a murmur of anticipation that amplified the chill hanging in the room. Clearing his throat, Ethan began, his voice a firm anchor amid the sea of uncertainty. He spoke of ancient legends hidden within Eden's history, of cosmic horrors that slept beneath the ordinary, waiting for celestial alignments to stir them awake. The never-ending eclipse, the strange whispers, and the shadows that prowled at the corner of their eyes. It was an insidious symphony heralding a cosmic terror that had descended upon Eden. There was a moment of stunned silence, as if the very air had frozen, before the community hall erupted into panicked chatter. The tangible thread of the tale wrapped around them, a chill seeping into their bones. Noah watched, wide-eyed, as fear rippled through the crowd like a sinister wave. He felt the same icy dread creeping up his spine, but he also felt a strange sense of determination. They were no longer just victims of this horror, but defenders of their home. In the following days, Ethan and Noah dove deeper into their research, exploring forgotten lore in ancient texts. Unearthed stories spoke of a time when darkness had engulfed Eden once before, when shadows whispered and sanity faltered. The terror had only lifted when the townsfolk had joined forces to perform a ritual calling upon the protective forces that bound the earth and sky. Despite the terrifying circumstances, Eden began to adapt. Guided by the threat's newfound understanding, the townsfolk rallied. Homes and streets were filled with the glow of candles and lanterns, a symbol of collective defiance against the encroaching darkness. Whispered prayers floated through the air, interwoven with the grit of resolve. However, the nocturnal serenity was deceptive. Shadows shifted in the corners, always just out of focus. The whispers became a constant undercurrent, a nightmarish lullaby that clawed at the fringes of sanity. The once vibrant Eden was transforming, its essence being eroded by a terror beyond mortal comprehension. As Ethan, Noah, and the rest of the town began preparations for the ritual, a question loomed in the heart of the town. As vast and as inscrutable as the darkness above, could they reclaim their home from the cosmic horror that was consuming it? Underneath the ceaseless eclipse, the town of Eden was a fortress of light against an ocean of darkness. Thousands of flickering candles stood as miniature sentinels, bathing homes in warm, defiant glow. The streets were silent except for the echoes of whispered prayers and rustling parchment as Ethan, Noah, and the townsfolk meticulously prepared for the impending ritual. Inside the town library, the atmosphere was a mixture of silent apprehension and grim determination. Ancient texts were spread across the old oak tables, their contents narrating tales of similar horrors and the rituals that quelled them. In one corner, Ethan and Noah examined an antiquated map of Eden, tracing ley lines and significant landmarks that matched descriptions from the old lore. Among the other inhabitants, Mrs. Hughes had transformed her bakery into a beacon of resilience. The delicious aroma of fresh bread provided a semblance of normalcy amid the alien twilight. Yet, beneath her stern exterior, Mrs. Hughes was a storm of anxiety. When the lights flickered, her heart pounded, and the childlike giggles still echoed in her dreams. Despite this, she would not allow her fear to consume her. Eden was her home, and she would fight for it. A stone's throw away, the park, once a hub of laughter and leisure, was now a desolate expanse. Its trees stood like gnarled sentinels, their leafless branches clawing at the shrouded sky. The playground was eerie and still, the swings and slides casting long, sinister shadows. In this empty field, under the watchful gaze of the eternal eclipse, Eden would make its stand. As night fell, the preparations reached fever pitch. A large circle was marked in the park's center, ancient symbols etched into the earth. Lanterns were arranged meticulously along the periphery, their flames dancing and casting long shadows on the grass. The townsfolk, clad in white, assembled around the circle, their faces etched with fear and determination. A sense of unity emerged, a collective will against the invading darkness. As Ethan began chanting in a long-forgotten language, the atmosphere grew tense. The words felt heavy in the air, vibrating with power. Noah held the ancient book, his voice joining his father's. The chant was hypnotic, resonating in the hearts of Eden's inhabitants. However, as the ritual progressed, so did the eerie occurrences. Shadows seemed to deepen, congealing into darker forms at the edges of the park. The whispers grew louder, a discordant chorus that set nerves on edge. The townsfolk, their faces bathed in the unsettling glow of the lanterns, could only cling to hope as the gathering shadows announced an imminent climax to their struggle against the cosmic horror. The silence that followed the completion of the chant was deafening. For a brief heartbeat of a moment, the world stood still. The only sound was the flickering of the lantern flames that encircled the ritual site, their light dancing on the faces of Eden's anxious inhabitants. In this lull, it seemed as if the entire universe was holding its breath. The calm, however, shattered abruptly. A bone-rattling roar surged from the cosmos above, filling the park and causing the ground to tremble beneath their feet. The pitch-black sky seemed to tear open, revealing an abyss that bore into the souls of Eden's residents. The shadows thickened, twirling and coiling, and then began to seep towards the circle of light. Ethan stood tall, holding his ground at the edge of the circle. His voice was firm as he continued the incantations, the ancient words gaining strength with each repetition. Beside him, Noah echoed his father's resolve. His hands shook slightly, but his voice never faltered, matching his father's steadfast cadence. The whispering voices clawed at their sanity, but they held fast, their determination radiating like a beacon amidst the terror. Fear gnawed at Mrs. Hughes as she watched the darkness advance. Yet she clenched her fists, her nails digging into her palms. Eden was her home, and she would not watch it fall. From every corner of the park, similar acts of defiance were mirrored, the townsfolk holding their ground against the encroaching shadows. The darkened tide seemed unstoppable, advancing upon the circle with a sinister inevitability. It moved like a living entity, a beast of the abyss, relentless and predatory. Yet, as it reached the edge of the circle, it faltered. The inscriptions on the ground glowed, a stark contrast against the night, creating an impervious wall of light. The shadows recoiled, writhing in apparent discomfort. A collective gasp filled the park, a moment of victory amidst the grim battle. Yet, the fight was far from over. The tension was thick in the air, a tangible force that gripped the heart of Eden. As Ethan and Noah continued the ritual, the battle of light against darkness raged on. Eden was no longer a town under an eclipse, but a battleground where humanity's spirit stood resolute against the cosmos' unknown horrors. The battle between light and darkness raged on in the heart of Eden. The circle of light held strong, a barrier of hope against the sea of shadows. Ethan and Noah, their voices ringing out in unison, held the townsfolk together with the power of their conviction. The resounding chants rippled through the air, a fortifying mantra against the encroaching abyss. Inside the circle, the energy was electric. The people of Eden locked arm in arm, their faces a mosaic of fear and determination. Were more than bystanders. They were participants, lending their energy and belief to the ritual. Mrs. Hughes, her gaze riveted on the barrier, prayed with all her might, her heart thrumming in sync with the town's collective pulse. Suddenly, a deafening boom echoed through the cosmos, a thunderous crescendo to the symphony of terror that had held Eden captive. The sky seemed to shatter, shards of darkness cascading downward. A gasp caught in every throat as the shadow tide surged forward, crashing against the glowing barrier with renewed ferocity. Then, from the depth of the abyss, something stirred. A monstrous entity, colossal and indescribable, began to take form, its visage a testament to cosmic horror. It bore down upon the town, an omnipotent figure amidst the eclipsed sky, a nightmarish silhouette seared into the minds of the townsfolk. But even in the face of this terror, Eden did not falter. As one, the townsfolk's chant rose, a defiant outcry against the cosmic nightmare. Ethan and Noah, their voices hoarse but unyielding, led the cry, their words shining brighter against the night. Suddenly, the entity roared, a sound of pure rage that split the night. A barrier pulsed, releasing a blinding burst of light that shot up towards the eclipse. The light met the cosmic entity in a dazzling collision, causing it to recoil. As the entity retreated, an extraordinary sight unfolded. A single ray of sunlight pierced the eclipse, a radiant lance driving back the shadows. It was a sliver, a thin line of golden light, but it was the most beautiful thing anyone in Eden had ever seen. As the light grew stronger, the cosmic entity dissipated, and the whispering shadows fell silent. The townsfolk watched in awe as the sky lightened, the sunlight spreading like a healing hand across the scarred cosmos. As the eclipse finally broke, revealing a sky of serene blue, Eden erupted into cheers. They had faced the cosmic horror and emerged victorious, their unity and resolve restoring the day. In the wake of dawn, the people of Eden stood stronger and closer than ever. The shared horror had forged an unbreakable bond among them, a testament to their will and spirit. Eden was not just a small idyllic town, it was a beacon of resilience, a testament to the power of unity against the uncanny horrors that the universe could unveil. As the first rays of the sun bathed Eden in a golden glow, hope was rekindled, and life began anew. As dawn breaks over Eden, we find ourselves on the safe shore of reality. But remember, dear listeners, the chill you felt, the shadows that lurked in your room, they're a part of the world we explored together. As we conclude tonight's episode of Our Scary Stories, remember, horror doesn't end. It merely lurks, waiting in the hush of your room, in the recesses of your mind, waiting for the lights to go out again. Until next time, sleep tight, and remember, the shadows are never too far away. This is Our Scary Stories signing off for tonight.